So today we are making salted caramel, which is one of my favorite things to make. It's also quite an easy base recipe to add to your repertoire. A lot of people are scared to work with sugar. I think they're scared to burn it, scared that it'll crystallize. But I think the more you practice, the more you try at home, you'll get to know what it's supposed to look like, and you'll kind of know more the different steps to making a really nice caramel. So the most important thing, one of the most important things, is to start with your cream being quite hot. So you can either heat it up on the stove or in the microwave. This cream here, I just heated up in the microwave, so it's still quite hot. We want it to be hot when we go to add it to our melted sugar later. So our first step is to put about a quarter of the caramel into the bottom of a pot. So essentially what we're doing is we just have plain granulated sugar, and we're going to melt it. You want to really keep an eye on this. You don't want to walk away from your sugar at any point. It can take a few minutes. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of watching it, and I'm swirling my pan a little bit. And I can see the sugar kind of starting to clump a little bit, and it'll slowly start to melt. I'm also not using a spoon or a whisk or anything at this point. I'm simply just swirling my pot over my stove like this. So we started with about 1.25 cups of granulated sugar, or approximately 270 grams. You can also use berry sugar, which is really fine sugar, to do this. It doesn't really matter which one. So my first round of sugar is almost completely melted. You can see here in the pot. It's starting to turn kind of an amber color. So now at this point, when the first round is melted, I'm going to sprinkle another quarter of my sugar over top. And again, I'm just going to swirl my pot. And at this point, you can see it getting quite dark around the edges. So you really need to keep an eye on it, because it's going to happen quickly now. Second amount is almost melted. I'm going to go ahead and add another quarter. Also remember that when you add your cream later, it will lighten the colors, so don't be too alarmed if it looks quite dark at this point. Okay, so I'm going to add my last quarter of sugar, just sprinkle it over top. So at this point, all of my sugar is almost completely melted. There are a few little crystallized lumps in there, and that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. So now I have my hot cream here, and I'm going to slowly add it to this. If you dump it all in at once, you run the risk of it boiling over or kind of splashing everywhere. So I'm going to do this a little bit slowly. There we go. So you can see that it really boils up, so there we go. So I'm just going to give it a stir with my spatula here. I'm going to strain it into a bowl. So there's just a few small crystallized bits left in the strainer. So it looks like a lot of butter, but this is really what makes salted caramel so delicious. So I'm just going to take a few pieces at a time and add it in. You can do this just with a whisk or a spatula, or you can use an immersion blender if you want to make it really, really smooth, just something like this. So it'll just make our caramel even that much creamier. This is our kind of finished caramel, and I'm just going to add this in with a spatula. So in this little bowl here, we have my fleur de sel, the sea salt, and then we have the almond flour, or ground almond or almond meal, however you want to call it. The almond flour is totally optional. We like to add it to the salted caramel. I feel like it gives the caramel a bit more of a bite. It makes them a bit more toothsome. So there we go. So for me, this is the perfect color. It's a little bit darker. It's got that nice amber hue. You can still see the almond flour in it. I don't mind. I really like the texture that it gives it. And that's it. So you can use it straight like this, or you can put it in the fridge and let it solidify. Once it cools down, you really can go at it with a spoon and just eat it like that. Or you can, you know, you can spread it on things, put it on toast, anything you want. Yeah, and it's easy to melt it in the microwave or over the stove quickly if you want to get it back to kind of a more liquid consistency. That's it. That's how you make salted caramel.